What is sin? At its root, sin is rejecting that God is smarter and wiser than you and loves you more than you understand. It is rejecting God and doing something different than what he says is good for you because you know better than him. It's like the 6-year-old telling their parent that they really don't know what's right and don't want what's best for them. But it's deeper than that. A little bit more. We look at the stuff we do wrong and try to put it in perspective of our overall self-evaluation that we're basically a good person. We look at our own value system and think that we're doing pretty good by our own self-measurement. But if we look at the whole world, we realize everyone is doing that, and it leads to a big mess. God is our designer and knows what is best for us, just like a wise and loving parent knows what is best for their 6-year-old child. Many don't have a good example of loving and wise parents, but they give counsel and they allow the child to make their own decisions, which sometimes are very wrong. The wise and loving parent never tells a child experiencing a resulting life lesson that what they're doing is okay in order to make them feel good. Instead, they affirm their love for the child while being consistent in their counsel. Going a layer deeper, it's about attitudes and not just actions. Sin starts in the heart and manifests itself in our actions. Our actions either build up or corrupt relationships. Jesus gave some examples in Matthew 5. Here's 2 of them. In the first one, Jesus said, "You say that you've not committed adultery. But I say that if you have lusted after someone, you have already committed adultery in your heart." Think about that. If you're lusting after someone, are you primarily thinking about their good or yours? Will you project care and concern for them that builds the relationship? Or will they figure out that you're more interested in what you can get from them rather than how you care about their needs and desires? Also, if you have a spouse and start focusing on things someone else does better, that will weaken your relationship with your spouse rather than strengthening it. What you think manifests itself in your behavior towards others. A second example Jesus gave us, he said that you say you've not committed murder. But I say that if you hate someone, you have murdered them in your heart. Think about that one. There's much division and strife in our world today. That is because we have lost the desire and the ability to build bridges across our differences. Each of us begins gathering evidence why the others are wrong rather than finding ways to talk about our differences. As we accumulate the evidence against the others, we condemn them in our heart, and that destroys relationships. So the why behind all of this. The most common reason people say sin is bad is because it's an affront to God. But God is bigger than that. If you look at what Jesus said about the 2 greatest commandments, he did not say anything about them being an affront to God. He said they summarize all of the law and the prophets, which was their Bible at the time, and they are both made of love statements rather than do and do not statements. When a loving and wise parent sets up rules for their child, they're not primarily about avoiding bad things. They are part of a parenting framework that is designed to help the child mature into an adult. That provides the best chance for the child to have a purposeful and rewarding life full of wholesome relationships with God and others. So, when the child breaks the rules, it's not primarily about committing an affront to the parents as much as it is about risking the child's future. Little cracks in foundations accumulate and fester into bigger problems later. The parent will often explain why breaking the rules was a bad thing. And over time, the child should learn to trust their loving and wise parent because they see it is for their own good. Of course, that can take a long time for the child to realize. And the same is true for us trusting God. Put simply, sin is rejecting that God is wiser than you and deciding to choose your ways over his ways, just as a 6-year-old does. This time on earth has a purpose to show us the difference between being good with a primary focus on self, which includes family, and truly loving our neighbors as ourselves. John 13:35 says, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." We need to understand that, because otherwise heaven would just become like this mess we have here. It would have all the same strife, and that ends here. Instead, God is building a heaven that will be full of wholesome relationships with everyone for all of eternity. Only trusting our loving and wise Heavenly Father can bring that. Thanks for listening.